Hey everyone, today we are going to review the Scarlet Abyss reading check, the second one that you all completed. After reading the Scarlet Abyss, you all know that symbolism is a huge factor, a huge literary device in the short story, and the use of that really emphasizes the plot, the characters, and the theme. So we're going to review these questions and how the symbolism was emphasized in the story. So, number one, explain your opinion of the narrator's behavior at the end of the story. Is he in some way responsible for Doodle's death? Is his emotion at the very end of sorrow, guilt, or something else? The narrator's behavior at the end of the story stems from grief and guilt. He isn't responsible for Doodle's death, but his actions influence Doodle to try to run after his brother, causing Doodle to make a dangerous decision. However, Doodle's decision does not mean he is at fault either. They were in the middle of a storm and they were acting as kids act. The consequences are unfortunate, and the brother did act out in such a way because he wanted to be mean. But again, this does not necessarily mean either Doodle or the brother are at fault. Number two, by the end, whom do you pity more, the narrator or Doodle, and why? Doodle enjoyed his life even though he was pushed beyond his limits. Doodle was confident in who he was, despite the fact that his family was not, and despite the fact that he had a disability. So, my pity lies more with the brother because he will have to overcome the guilt he will face over how he treated his brother and the grief he will face due to the fact that he lost his brother. Do you think the narrator makes any kind of discovery at the story's end as he cradles his little body? The narrator realizes how special Doodle was and that he should have cherished his time with him more than focusing on Doodle's disability. I think that the narrator will learn about how his pride influenced his actions in connection to Doodle. His pride pushed him to push Doodle and to try things that Doodle really wasn't capable of trying. Forcing Doodle to learn how to walk was fantastic, but after that, his pride kept pushing him to push Doodle beyond his limits, and I think the narrator will realize that his pride played a role in how he mistreated Doodle. In the last sentence, the narrator calls his brother his fallen Scarlet Abyss. In what ways could the abyss be a symbol for Doodle? Consider details about the following factors: the resemblance between Doodle and the abyss, Doodle's identification with the bird, Doodle and the abyss's struggle to survive in their worlds, and the similarity between Doodle and the abyss's death. Both the Scarlet Abyss and Doodle are fragile, and Doodle feels a connection to the bird when the bird dies because he couldn't fly, and Doodle felt broken because they always said he couldn't walk or do anything extremely physical. The bird was also an exotic bird and had flown to an area that it didn't belong, symbolizing Doodle's feelings of not belonging within his family or among the other children. The abyss's death is also a symbol of Doodle's death because Doodle is covered in blood at the end and his neck is broken, looking similar to the long neck of the bird. Both die because they are trying to push themselves beyond their limits. The bird was in an area foreign to it, and Doodle was pushing himself beyond his physical abilities. Reread what the narrator says on page 347 about pride, then explain whether you think pride can lead to the kinds of sorrow that Mary Evans writes about in her poem. If there be sorrow, the poem is down below. I realized after inserting this question that the page that the narrator or that the author is telling you about may be a little more difficult to find. So just looking at the poem and then thinking about the pride that the narrator shows within the story, we can answer this question though. If there be sorrow, let it be for things undone, undreamed, unrealized, unattained. To these add one, love withheld, restrained. So you can immediately make a connection from this poem to the narrator because the narrator, even though he spent a lot of time with his brother and even though we know he loved his brother, his pride restrained his love because he always wanted to try to make Doodle to be better and to be something that he wasn't. So he never cherished the moments that he had with Doodle because he was so focused on making Doodle to be someone he could never be. So pride can lead to sorrow because pride can keep us from making decisions that allow us to fully express joy. The narrator's pride kept him from cherishing Doodle as he was because he wanted to change him to be like all of the other kids. So that is a review of this worksheet. Use this to help you when you think about the symbolism and you think about the characters and how the symbolism emphasizes the characters in the story and the plot.